Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Transformers Rise of the Beasts, directed by Stephen Caple Jr. It's a sequel to 2018's Bumblebee, but according to the producer, it's also a prequel to the 2007 Michael Bay Transformers movie, which I'm going to get this out of the way right now. Because of the things that happen in this movie, and even in Bumblebee, there's no way this is part of the Michael Bay universe. There's no good reason for this to be a part of that horrible series of films. Whatever, I'll save my thoughts for those movies in the next couple of weeks. What's this movie about? Well, this movie takes place in 1994. The Autobots have been stuck on Earth for a good long while, but soon they discover an energy source that could possibly get them back home to Cybertron. Unfortunately, another faction of robots, the Terracons, are after this device as well, because their leader Scourge is serving the giant planet eater Unicron. Also roped into the mix are the Maximals, led by Optimus Primal, as they are the ones who came to Earth with this device, and they need to keep it away from the Terracons and Unicron. So this is going to be the point in the video where my 90s kid card gets revoked. I never grew up with Beast Wars. I remember watching it. I don't think I watched it when it aired, but all I remember was really weird CG animation with talking animals that turn into robots. That's all I remember. I didn't know the characters, I didn't understand the plot at all. I didn't really start paying attention to Transformers until the Michael Bay film. So I just assumed that Beast Wars was a Transformers knockoff. But then I realized that, oh, this is just another interpretation of Transformers. So of course it was a matter of time that we got a Beast Wars movie. And I actually didn't know what to make of this movie going in, because the trailers looked really bland. It just looked like a generic big CG-infested summer blockbuster. But at the same time, I did enjoy Bumblebee. I actually re-watched Bumblebee the night before I saw Rise of the Beasts, and while I still think it's a good movie, it doesn't quite hold up as well. Mainly because it relies too much on E.T. and the Iron Giant for the basis of its story, and I would have loved to see a more big-scale Transformers film. Not a bad movie at all, but I think the reason I loved it as much as I did when it first came out was because, by comparison of the Michael Bay movies, it may as well have been the greatest movie ever made. But it's still good. Rise of the Beasts, I think I might like a little better than Bumblebee, because there's a lot in this movie that it gets right. This is actually the first time where I've watched a Transformers movie and thought, yeah, this is a Transformers movie, because the character designs are really good. They might not be 100% accurate to the 80s cartoon, but they're still good designs. They don't look like a bunch of metal parts just mashed up against each other. While the action scenes are heavily CG, they look crystal clear and you can tell what's going on. The camera's not waving around all over the place like it does with the Michael Bay films. And the transformations look fantastic. I mean, the first trailer of the movie where we see Bumblebee transform, I thought, that's probably the best live-action transformation in a Transformers movie I've ever seen. And there's just as much time dedicated to the Transformers as there are with the human characters, which I'll start off with the human cast right now. We have Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback, and they're both good in the movie and pretty much take on the role that I always expected these characters to have. They accompany the Transformers on their journey, but unlike something like the G1 series, there's actually more of a reason why these characters are on board. When we're first introduced to Anthony Ramos' character, he's taking care of his sick brother. So he gets roped up into this journey because, well, one, he became a witness to Transformers thanks to Mirage, but also he wants to try to save the world so he can continue to help his brother. And then Dominique Fishback, her reason for being in this movie isn't as strong as Anthony Ramos. She just wants to be an archaeologist, and she's the one that finds this device that gets the plot moving along. And they're both likable enough to keep you going, but they're not super interesting, which I wouldn't expect the human cast to be super interesting anyway, because you come to a Transformers movie to see Transformers, and Transformers you get. Pete Davidson voices Mirage, who is Anthony Ramos's Transformer buddy this time around, not Bumblebee. And I'm not the biggest fan of Pete Davidson. Sometimes he can be funny, but he always plays sort of a douchebag type character, and it gets really annoying really quickly. And I thought I would get annoyed by him as Mirage in this movie, but I found him to be funny. His jokes mostly worked, and he wasn't obnoxious. But the one element of this movie that I was surprised by, but also welcoming to, was Optimus Prime's character arc. Peter Cullen once again voices Optimus Prime, and he's as good as ever, but Optimus in this film actually gets some sort of character arc. I didn't think we'd actually get that with an actual Transformer. He starts out one way, where he's kind of in a bad mood and has this huge burden that he and the other Autobots are still stuck on Earth. But through his time on this journey, working with the humans and then meeting the Maximals, he starts to change as a character and become the Optimus Prime that we're all familiar with. That brave, stoic leader who will save the day and defeat the enemy no matter the cost. So that was very welcoming, but unfortunately this movie has a lot of issues, and I may like this a little more than Bumblebee, but I think Bumblebee was a tighter film and a more well-made movie, because this film here has some things that are kind of weak. First of all, the villain, Scourge. He's the leader of the Terracons, voiced by Peter Dinklage, and I just found him to be a generic villain. He doesn't really have anything memorable about him. He's got a cool face mask, sure, but that's about it. And the best way to describe him is comparing him to Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League, or even the theatrical cut of Justice League, where he's serving a higher master, and that's pretty much it. In fact, the whole final battle of this movie was straight up Justice League, where it was fully CGI. Our characters have to disable something in order to save the world and stop the main bad guy. And in terms of Peter Dinklage, he does a fine job, but his voice is digitized so much that you can't even tell it's Peter Dinklage. It's the same thing they did with Orson Welles as Unicron in the 1986 film. And speaking of Unicron, he's here in the movie. That's about it. I think it felt like a real waste of time to make him a villain in only the second film of this franchise. So, I don't know. Unicron wasn't really utilized as much as he should have, and honestly, they should have saved him for a lot later down the line, because Unicron is the ultimate Transformers bad guy. And then probably one of the bigger issues I have with the movie, and something that will annoy a lot of 90s kids, the Maximals are barely in it. The movie's called Rise of the Beasts. This is essentially Beast Wars the movie, according to the marketing, and the Maximals actually open up the film, but with the exception of Airazor, voiced by Michelle Yeoh, they don't really pop back up until much later down the line, and both Cheetor and Rhinox aren't even characters. I don't think Rhinox even gets a line of dialogue. But for the little time we got, I love the interactions between the Autobots and the Maximals. There's a couple of moments between Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal that I think worked out well, but I wish these scenes were a little further developed. And the only reason I can see for Airazor being the most prominent Maximal outside of Ron Perlman's Primal is because Michelle Yeoh had just won the Academy Award, and because of Everything Everywhere All at Once winning Best Picture. So I think they wanted to capitalize on her success with this film, even if she's just providing VO work. To wrap things up, is this the Transformers movie I've been waiting for? Still no, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. The things that this movie gets right are things that the Michael Bay movies get so drastically wrong. There's some cool action, there's enough time focused to the Autobots as there are to the human characters, the cast is small, and there's nobody from the first movie in terms of the human characters that comes back in this one, as it should be. Ron Perlman does a great job voicing Optimus Primal, the voice acting is mostly good, but there are gaping plot holes, and the end of the film left me dumbfounded. I won't spoil what happens at the end of the movie, but it's one of these things where I thought, this is some hardcore desperation. And as much as I've enjoyed these last two Transformers movies, if they continue this roadmap with this reveal, I am seriously concerned. So we'll see what the future holds for this series. As of right now, for rating, I'd say it's good, but not great. If you're not a Transformers fan, this isn't the movie for you. There's no reason for you to watch this whatsoever. But if you're a fan of Transformers, especially if you're a fan of Beast Wars, then there's some entertainment to be had in this movie. You'll be disappointed that the Maximals aren't in it as much as you'd like them to, but it's a step in the right direction for what the Transformers movies should be, and I'll give the future of this franchise the benefit of the doubt. And there you go, that's my review for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Now before I go, I want to mention that starting this Wednesday, I will be reviewing the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I originally wanted to review these movies before Rise of the Beasts came out, but I had too much going on. And in the case of Revenge of the Fallen, I wasn't quite ready to revisit that film just yet. But with Rise of the Beasts out, I will be tackling the Michael Bay Transformers movies as the next series of retro reviews on this channel. So tune in Wednesday for my review for 2007's Transformers. But until then, I want to know what you guys think about this movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.